Okay, hello everyone. I hope you can hear me. The guys on the backstage, if you cannot hear me, let me know. Hello, can you hear me? Okay, great. So, a very good evening, everyone. My name is Michael. I'm responsible for Bosch Building Technologies in Southeast Asia. And with me here, I have Adrian Tan, who is our head of business development in Bosch Building Technologies, as well as Joseph, who is the sales director for Bosch IO, which is our department responsible for IoT. Right. So without further ado, let me move on to my presentation. But first, of course, I have to share my slide. Just a minute. Sorry about that. Okay, great. I think you see the slide now. Okay, and sorry about the lack of sound just now for the video. Hopefully, we can fix that in the next video that we will show later on. Okay, today I'm going to talk about smart city technology that will help to enable social distancing. But I would like to also talk about smart solutions in general, and as well as um, also to look into smart cities and smart buildings in particular, right? And so moving from smart solutions to smart cities and smart buildings, and then moving down to very specific solutions that we have actually deployed in our office in Singapore. So without further ado, let me get moving. So Bosch is very much into the Internet of Things and IoT. When I tell people that I work for Bosch, unfortunately, that's not one of the first things that they think about. They will think about our consumer goods division, right? So Bosch has been around since 1886. Our sales last year was roughly around 78.5 billion euros in sales, and we've got more than 400,000 associates around the world, of which about more than 68,000 of them are in R&D, and we've got 27,000 software engineers. We have 280 manufacturing sites across the world. And one thing you might not know, and which is quite interesting, is that we sold about 52 million IP-enabled devices over the course of a year, and we make about 4 million MEMS sensors every day. Right, so these are sensors that go into a lot of the smart connected solutions and IoT solutions, even in your Fitbit watches or your iPhones. Therein, you will find these MEMS sensors. The biggest business unit that we have, a division we have, is in mobility solutions. That accounts for about 47 billion euros of sales. Bosch is the largest supplier of automotive parts and systems. So every single vehicle out there would have some sort of Bosch product, but most people would know the brand of the car, but not know that actually we are underneath the hood of all brands, regardless of make or model. The next division would be industrial technology. This is our Rexroth division that is involved in very much in Industry 4.0 and smart manufacturing topics. I come from energy and building technology. Here we have thermal technology as well as safety and security products for buildings. But a couple of years ago, we realized that the future is in IoT, the future is in software. So we invested in an organization, Bosch Software Innovations, or currently called Bosch IO, that was founded in 2008, and we've got more than 700 IoT experts working in this division that tries to connect all our products together and also connect our products to the internet. So that's Bosch in a nutshell. I mentioned earlier on that we are very much an IoT player, and here we even won Best IoT Vendor for Asia Pacific. It was an award given to us by Frost and Sullivan last year. So when people ask me what is a smart city, to be honest, there are many different definitions, right? And you ask 100 different people, you get 100 different answers on what a smart city is. But in essence, it is you are basically deploying sensors and connected things. That's the portion on the left, whereby you have sensors and other IP enabled items, right? And then you collect all the information that these sensors and connected devices are producing, and you connect that information to a cloud. You can do further analytics of this information, and you from this you get insights, and you also create dashboards and other services that come out of it. So in essence, this is the architecture and how a smart solution would look like. So the more sensors you deploy on the wider scale, you can do it on a city level, you can do it on the building level, or even in a home level, and it really very much depends on what use cases, what problem statements you want to solve. Right, so there's no one definition of what a smart city is. It really depends on what are the issues and problem statements of that city or the building. Okay. Um, Smart solutions are basically distributed intelligence, and we are basically taking the intelligence and putting them on the sensors, on the gateway, on the cloud. And in order for a smart solution to work, it's important to have open ecosystem, because no one player is or no one brand is able to provide every single thing that you require in a smart city or smart building. And that's where different players, different brands come in. But they all need to talk together. All this data needs to be integrated and shared, right? So open APIs would also be important, and different hardware providers might be working with different cloud providers, and that's where in some of the solutions, cloud to cloud integration is also required. The beauty of smart solutions that are cloud-based, it allows the solutions to be scalable, right? And you also will be able to access that information worldwide. One of the critical things about deploying smart solutions is with regards to security, because every single IP enabled device then becomes a potential loophole for cybersecurity attacks. And of course, data privacy is also a very in topic right now. And other challenges include, how do you access these devices? How do you update the devices? How do you know whether these devices are still working or not? Or how do you send firmware updates over the air, for example, and not having to go down individually to thousands of hardware to update them? So these are some of the challenges and criteria about as to how you create a smart solution. So moving on, I would like to talk about smart buildings, connected buildings, and what we have to offer. In a building, some of the challenges include, building owners or tenants would like to have better air quality, and they want to monitor that air quality. And it has been shown and proven that better air quality within an indoor environment would basically lead to increased productivity, right? And in addition to that, building owners and maintenance people would also want to try to reduce their energy costs and their maintenance costs. So these are some of the challenges, and it's very often in a building whereby you have a lot of unused empty desks. So there are some people who might be at the desk all the time, but if you're a salesperson like myself or a business development person, you're out meeting customers all the time, and there might be a lot of empty spaces. And it's been shown that roughly sometimes up to 50 to 60% of the desks in office buildings go unused, and that becomes waste. Right. So how do you maximize the use of your space becomes another challenge. In a building, there are different stakeholders. You have the device manufacturer who is supplying products to the building, and he would want to know if his products are being efficient. He wants to reduce his service costs and increase his customer satisfaction. Then you have the service provider. It could be a facility manager. It could be somebody who's doing the repair of things in the building, and he wants to provide new efficient services to connected building. If you are a building owner, you want to know how what's the status of your building. You want to know how the building is being used. If you are a tenant, you would like to have an overview of what you're paying for. How can you save money? How can you improve operational efficiency? And if you are a user, you just want a very nice environment that you can work in. Right? So as you craft connected building solutions, it's important to ask yourself, who is your target audience? The particular solution that you are trying to deploy, who does it address, and whose pain point does it hope to solve, right? And that will give you a good basis as you structure and craft that solution out, right, to start with the user in mind. Okay, so in a connected building, some of the features and benefits, you want it to have a fast and easy installation for new and existing buildings, greenfield and brownfield. You want to have increased operational transparency of how your building and equipment is operating, and also to create a common data lake. Right, so just now I showed you as how the connected IP devices are sending data into the cloud, and in that cloud environment, what you are doing is to create a data lake, a reservoir of data in which you are then tapping onto that information to give you insights or to analyze that data further for you to make decisions. So open APIs for easy integration into BMS and other third-party solutions are also some of the things that you should think about when creating a connected building solution. So some connected buildings that Bosch has been involved in. Here you see these are Bosch buildings. Our Renningen corporate research building is one example of that. We also have our IoT campus in Berlin. Then there's also the plant in Schuberdingen and another plant in Abstadt. So these are existing Bosch buildings that we have deployed connected solutions and made them into a smart building, smart campus environment. Some other references where we have things like smart security and other reference projects include some offices in London, Life Cycle Tower. I think that's in Austria. There's an integrated health campus in Turkey, and so on and so forth. So here you see a picture of our Bosch building in Singapore. For the longest time, we talked about our smart building solutions, our smart campus solutions, but it was very much on paper or on PowerPoint, and we said, hey, let's turn all this into reality, and let's make our own building, an office in Singapore, a smart building, and I'm pretty sure that this is currently the first smart Bosch building in Southeast Asia. And I'll go into some of what these solutions are. So what some of the challenges we hope to address include how do we improve the occupants' comfort? How do we create more transparency? How do we optimize space? How do we provide real-time information, increase the building safety and security, optimize energy consumption, and also to track valuable assets within the building. So this is a summary of the various solutions that are deployed and available in our office. We have light monitoring and control. We've got lift monitoring. We've got occupancy tracking. We've got smart evacuation, Bosch Assist chatbot to allow the occupants of the building to communicate with the building and for the building to communicate back. Object detection, and I'll explain that a little bit later. Car park monitoring, asset tracking, and air quality monitoring. So this is in a nutshell, a summary of the different solutions that we have deployed, and I'll go into them one by one. And okay, so the first one is air quality monitoring. Just now I had mentioned to you that when you have good air quality, you actually increase the productivity of the users of the building. And here, if you look at the top right-hand corner of the slide, you will see a smart building sensor. So this is a sensor that we have deployed on the ceiling of our office, and it can measure temperature, humidity, CO2, and VOC. Right, and so if the CO2 built up within the office area gets too high, we can send information to the air conditioning on the HVAC for it to blow more fresh air into the building or that part of the office. And ensuring that we have the right temperature and humidity will also ensure that we avoid having build-up of mold or mildew, and that is also bad for health. So some of the applications for this would be things like hospitals or healthcare, or even schools, right? So you don't want your students to be falling asleep in the middle of class. It would be good for them to have a good air quality and environment. Another solution that we have deployed within our own building is this lift monitoring solution. We have sensors on the doors, on the top of the elevator to monitor. Sorry if there's a little bit of noise because there's a plane passing by. So we are monitoring the health of the elevator to understand what is the fingerprint of the elevator under normal working conditions, right? And to be able to predict if the elevator will fail. So we are monitoring things like vibration, sound, temperature. We are monitoring the open and the door open and close cycles, and we are also monitoring the usage of the elevators. How often is it used, and to be able to predict potential downtime. Right now, we have a predictive rate of more than 80%, right? So that means every time we say that we think the elevator is going to break down, we have a more than 80% hit rate that it actually does. So in doing so, we can send information to the elevator service provider to address and to repair or service something before the lift actually breaks down. So this is our lift monitoring solution, and later you can always ask Joseph some questions on that because he's the expert in this particular solution. Just now, the sensor that I mentioned that is monitoring air quality. You have a picture of this sensor on the ceiling. It's being circled. That same sensor is also able to monitor light or light intensity. So the sensors that are nearest to the window, if they measure or sense that the light from outside of the building is quite strong, then it would send a signal to the lights, the fluorescent lights within the office to dim, and thereby you are saving electricity. Um, and if it's relatively dark outside because it's raining or it's nighttime, then the lights internally will come on. So that's our light harvesting solution. One thing important that I would like to highlight is that if a particular solution or particular sensor or hardware only solves one particular use case, then it's a little bit challenging to justify the investments in the hardware installation. But in this case, this is a multi-sensor device. That same sensor that measures air quality is the same sensor that measures light intensity and measures a lot of other things that I'm going to talk about. And because of this multi-use and multi-sensing capability, and its ability to solve various use cases and problem statements, it makes it a lot more worthwhile and efficient for deployment. So this is a picture of our car park. It's an outdoor car park in our Bosch office. And what we have done is, so our office, if you can imagine looking at this picture, our office is on the left of this car park. And we have a camera on the top of our building looking down at this car park. And we have trained the camera to be able to identify if a car park lot is occupied or not occupied, and then we have a snapshot of car park occupancy just with one sensor. Now there is no need to plant or install individual floor sensors on each car park lot. Just with one camera, we are able to identify or give you an overview of what is the car park occupancy status. Right, that information can be sent to some kind of signage at the front of the car park before you enter to let you know if there are lots available, or you can send that information to some sort of parking app. That is also possible. The beauty is that same camera is also it also acts as a normal CCTV camera that is used for security and surveillance. Right, but here we are also using the camera trainer function of it to be able to detect car park lot occupancy. Here we have also deployed smart evacuation. Right, so if you have a very tall building, and let's say your office or your building is 30 stories high, and if a fire does break out, what you do not want is to have an announcement to all 30 levels to say, oh, there's a fire, please evacuate. And then what you're going to have is everybody evacuating at the same time, right? So here what we are able to do is if fire is identified on a particular level, we are able to provide a certain announcement to the affected level, and then other floors that are further away from the affected level could have a different announcement asking them to hold on for a little while the levels and the floors nearest to the fire are evacuated. Once the fire is detected, that information is also sending signals to the doors for them to be unlocked. And we also are able to link all of this into an integrated platform where the camera is then also able to help you see and see what's the situation on the ground, and then for you to be able to give more effective evacuation announcements and instructions. So this is a very interesting use case. So we have a service elevator, and we also have a passenger elevator lobby, right? And we do not want people to be moving goods inside the passenger lift lobby, like in this case in the picture here. We want them to use the service elevator instead. So right above in the lobby, we actually have a camera looking down at this lift lobby, and if somebody moving goods in this lobby is detected, then an announcement is sent to the public address just for that lobby, for that person to use the service elevator instead. So of course, this is a case whereby we have trained the camera to detect the moving of goods on a trolley. So that's something very specific. But if you are an operator of a mall, for example, we can train the camera to identify what does a supermarket trolley look like, right? And then if somebody is pushing the supermarket trolley out of the mall and bringing it home, for example, you want to be able to detect that. And so you could have a camera at the main entrances and exits to detect people pushing the trolley out of the building, and then to send information to some sort of a signage at the door or to the security guard to come and address the situation. There are many use cases available here. The key point here is that we are able to train the camera within a very short period of time to detect things that you are interested to detect, right? So, I mean, if you have a cat problem in your facility and you want to detect cats, right? We could potentially also train the camera to detect that, just as an example. So occupancy tracking. So I go down now to more of some of these solutions that are more COVID-19 related, and how some of these smart building, connected building solutions can help contribute to our fight against COVID-19. And so here are these same sensors just now that I talked about, the ones that are able to monitor temperature and CO2 and VOC and light intensity. They are also an occupancy tracker, and we are able to then monitor and measure people flow, and to know how crowded is a particular area within the office. And if there is too much crowding and occupancy detected, then somebody like facility manager can be informed to take action. We also have this same sensor. I told you this is really a multi-purpose, multi-use sensor. This same sensor is also a Bluetooth beacon that is able to provide you asset tracking. So if you can imagine within an office environment, or let's say within a hospital or a hotel, you might have things that you push around within the building, right? Especially in hospitals or in clinics. You have these machines that you push around from ward to ward, patient to patient. You could attach a sensor onto this device, and as you push these devices and assets around the building, it's being picked up by the Bluetooth beacon up on the ceiling, and then or rather the sensor is able to pick up the beacon that you have attached onto the asset, and then you can follow the path or to identify where these assets are at any point in time. So that you do not waste time trying to search for these machines or assets. Through some sort of dashboard, you will be able to find them easily. Social distancing is very much a norm nowadays. If you go to some F&B outlets, you would see that certain seats are marked out. You're not supposed to be sitting there. F&B operators, restaurant operators would want you to keep a distance of 1 to 2 meters. And if you go to the bank, or you are queuing up for something, you would see markers on the floor to tell you to queue and to stand at a particular distance. What our camera trainer feature function is able to do in this case is to be able to train the camera to identify if people are sitting in the seats that they're not supposed to be sitting in. And then if they do sit there, you can either send an alert, have a public address, announcement, or send an information to somebody to address that situation. So this is the use of camera as a sensor. It is very common nowadays when I go to the malls and the supermarket, I hear broadcasts, announcements telling me to keep to social distancing and to to be hygienic and to wear a mask and all that. But sometimes I go to a mall and the public address system is not very good. They are not using a Bosch PA system, and I can't really hear what they are saying. Right? So in this case, it's very important to have a good, clear public address system to be able to make these announcements such that they are audible to the people in the mall or the facility. And here, Bosch Building Technologies, we do also provide crystal clear public address systems. There is also interest to know the occupancy within a mall, within a retail space, right? And so if you have a particular retail shop with only one entrance and exit, it's quite straightforward. You can have a panoramic camera looking down, like in this case in the picture, and counting the number of people going in and out. Yeah, so we are applying video analytics from Bosch cameras here. The analytics and the intelligence is on the camera itself, and it's doing that people count. It knows the direction of the how people are walking, and therefore knowing whether they're going in and out. And here we are then able to consolidate that information to tell if there is the optimal number of people within a retail space. That information can be then also sent to some kind of signage at the door of the retail or retailer or the F&B outlet, such that once the maximum number of people allowed inside that confined space has been reached, then you can have a traffic light on the outside saying, okay, now it's red, too many people inside, please wait. And then once somebody comes out, the light turns to green, and then the next person can walk in. So that's how we are able to monitor and track the number of people within a space, and then to link that information to some sort of crowd control signage or mechanism. Crowd management is also becoming increasingly important in public spaces. People want to know crowd formations in, let's say, MRT platforms or bus interchanges, or yeah, and so that information, once you, let's say in this case, in this picture, if you can see there's too many people within a certain area to make an announcement, please spread yourself out across the entire platform, for example. Right, so this can be crowd management, crowd monitoring in an open space or a public space. Nowadays, people do not like to touch things, right? When I go into an elevator, I try to use this part of my hand, or I use my elbow. And people do not want to touch things because they don't want viruses getting on their hands. Likewise, if you go into an office building, here Bosch is also providing touchless access solution, providing facial recognition access control into buildings, and we have also deployed one of these in Thailand recently, whereby as you are walking towards the turnstile in the office building, our cameras are there to detect your face, and there we upload a list of faces that are allowed to be into the building. This is what we call the white list. Right, these people are working in this building and therefore allowed to have access to that building. So as you walk towards the turnstile, the doors the turnstile will open on its own. And if you do not have authorization, obviously they will not open up. So this is a good way for you to gain access to a building or to a certain room without having to touch anything. Right? Of course, the premise is that you need some sort of door opening mechanism that is automated in the first place, right? So either a turnstile, automated sliding door. If you require somebody to hold onto a handle, turn the handle just to open, then of course it defeats the purpose. And I think moving forward, we will see more and more people and building owners deploying solutions whereby doors are becoming more automated. Right? So two-factor authentication is also possible with face and card for added security. Touchless access, if you have such a requirement, we would love to help you with that as well. Within our Bosch office, we also have something called the Bosch Assist chatbot. You can see an example of this here on a mobile phone. What you basically do is we have allowed our office colleagues to basically save a number within your mobile phone just as you would save your friend's telephone number. So Bosch Assist is a contact number that you save into your contact list. And then this would allow you to communicate with the buildings. So we have a camera in our gym. Our office does have a gym, and I can ask the camera in the gym how occupied is the gym, how crowded is it, and then I get information. So it allows me to know and assess the situation and decide whether I want to change to go down to the gym. I can also ask that same question: how crowded is the canteen? So we also do have a camera in our canteen, or cameras, to detect the crowdedness of our canteen. And then I can also decide, do I want to go down now, or do I want to wait for it to be less crowded? So this is me as a building user communicating with the building, with the assets in the building. The reverse can be possible. For example, if the camera detects that a certain area is too crowded, then the same notification can be sent to the facility managers of the building, for example, to say, oh, this area has too much crowding. Please either have a public address announcement, or have somebody from security or facility management look into it. So yeah, I come to the very last slide now. And in the past, I think solutions or systems in a building were not connected in the first place, right? So in a lot of old existing buildings, we have very siloed solutions. So HVAC is one, elevator is one, your electricity system is, these are all very individual siloed system. The next step, of course, would then be to have all these systems IoTize, if there's such a word, whereby these systems have sensing capability. They are smart. They are able to connect to the internet, but yet still very siloed in nature. The next step after that would be then to have all that information into a data lake, and you can then create a digital twin of the building to be able to know precisely what's happening in the building, how are the machines and the assets operating, to be able to apply predictive capability to know if something is going to break down before it breaks down, and also to create some kind of automation. When this happens, please tell this other machine to do ABC or XYZ, right? So then you then have automated increased automation within a building, and that provides you with better comfort, higher efficiency or productivity within the building. And yeah, and with that, I thank you. And I think we move on now to a video first before we address questions. So if you could, please play the video. Once again, you do not hear the sound, but this is in our canteen. No, it's actually going into an IT space of our where we provide IT support for our colleagues. And we do not. It's a confined space, and we do not want too many people inside. So the camera is able to detect people going in and out of this IT space. And then you can see the board on the right side, with a traffic light, telling the people queuing up, okay, are you able to go in or now or not, right? So you can see as one person goes out, the next person is able to go in, because the maximum number of people has not been reached yet. Okay, so sorry again for the lack of sound there. And I think we are quite good on time. I think we have about 15 more minutes. So let's see. Adrian and Joseph, do we have any questions coming in from the floor?
Yes, I will take the first question. Is there any solutions for the buildings in COVID-19 period? As what Michael have shared earlier, we have various solutions in terms of using video analytics or using sensor-based solutions to track movements of people. Now, on top of that, what I would like to really share here is that besides we have actually used video analytics to actually trace and detect where people are wearing their face mask properly, or if they even wear the face mask into the building. So these are alerts that we can send information to the security, whereby they could actually guide or remind the person to actually wear a face mask when they have to enter into the buildings. Now, as what Michael have shared in the videos, where you could actually incorporate solutions like the people counter. You know that in certain countries or certain regulations, they may not, you may have a limits to the number of people allowed in each rooms or each facilities. And having such a smart people counter solutions, you can helps to facilitate your movement of people easily without having to have too many ushers. And on top of that, if there's any bridges, this could be actually sent to the tenants and reminds them that, hey, no, please follow the rules accordingly. There are various again solutions where within an office, for example, that we use each of the staff is actually have an access card, and this access card is a Bluetooth device where you can track the movements of people. This is very useful if in the case of there's any positive COVID cases. We know who are the ones who are near to this person, instead of you have to quarantine the whole building itself. So these are areas where we can do so. And on top of that, our cleaning contractors, who might involve or have been in that place where the active users is around, then you also can know that these contractors, you can trace them and send them for quarantine as well. So these
Yeah,
are
I think.
really various solutions that we can. Yeah, Michael, you want to add on? Yeah.
Yeah, I think contact tracing, as you mentioned, is something that is important nowadays, right? To be able to track who is near who at what time, where, who are the people around. And I think there is also the opportunity to do contact tracing using facial recognition, right? So maybe Adrian, you might like to elaborate a little bit about that, on how facial recognition could potentially be used for contact tracing.
Right. So as what Joseph has shared, actually, in order to achieve contact tracing using contact tracing, I think one of the first things that we all have to come to terms with is that we need to be able to accurately identify, right? So it doesn't matter if it's a tag, it doesn't matter if it's a mobile device. End of the day, it is something that you can use as a unique identifier in order to latch on that device to a particular person, and then form that association such that you can perform contact tracing. So in using facial recognition, the principle remains the same uh, because of the integration level of the systems. So therefore now it is actually possible to say, attach a particular face to a particular Bluetooth card that I've issued, for example. So if you can then imagine the possibility to trace this Bluetooth beacon or device that's traveling throughout the building, you can then actually have a lot of really interesting information, because number one, you would know exactly how this person has moved within the building. And second of all, you would also have an idea of which other devices it has come into close contact with, right? So by that extension, then it allows you to trace really quickly, supposedly an incident that requires you to have contact tracing enabled, such as this COVID-19 situation, for example. So that is how the tech will play out.
Thanks for the explanation. I think there was also a question that came in. I was showing the trolley detection at the lobby just now, and I think there was a question asking, we should get robots to move packages and do the delivery instead of a person with a trolley, right? Any comments on all these topics?
Yeah. I have a small little comment. Um, I think at the end of the day, if you're looking at putting a robot, into a building to do parcel delivery tasks in a very, very parallel way, it is kind of like autonomous driving, don't you think?
Yes.
Right. So,
Yeah.
so if you want to know, like, how could this something like this be realized, there is actually a really cool video on how a Mercedes Benz automates itself to park itself. So it's automated valet, right?
By
And
Bosch.
exactly, right. So
Yeah.
fundamentally, that is enabled by two things. Yeah, one is sensors that is built on the car, and in this case, sensors on the
Mm,
robot. But also important is sensors in the infrastructure. All
mm,
right. So it's in those cases where we think a smart building solution where you actually sensorize a building, doesn't matter cameras or whatever sensors that you put in place,
mm.
it is a step towards the right direction if that is really the dream, right?
Yeah, so I think in the automated valet parking scenario, the vehicle is communicating with the infrastructure
Exactly.
to be guided to the
Yep.
an available parking lot. Right. So say
Exactly.
similarly, if you want to use a robot to deliver things within the building, you need to be able to tell the robot where to go.
Hmm.
But I guess it also needs to overcome certain things like, okay, how do I press the lift button, or how do I tell how do would the robot tell the elevator that I need to go to the fifth floor,
Hmm.
and then to know that he is there, and then to go
Hmm.
out and then find his way around the
Hmm.
office area. So I think these are challenges that need to be overcome, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
But I think the key thing is this, right? I think many a times we think about implementing, futuristic projects either as one or nothing. And I think that's
Mm,
sometimes not the best approach, right? Today we are talking about, delivering projects and delivering solutions in an agile manner means you're building things incrementally, right? So in this case, if that is ultimately the future where problems like, button pushing of the lift is not yet solved,
mm,
but if you have today sensorize the building and make it smart, that is a step in the right direction. It will eventually
mm,
lead you there, not tomorrow maybe, but you certainly don't have to take the risk of doing one or zero, one or nothing.
mm,
Yeah. So uh, pick some of the use cases today, as Michael you've mentioned earlier, things that we are able to easily address and resolve, and in the future build upon it.
mm,
For future things.
mm. Maybe a question to Joseph. I think
Mhm.
as we deploy sensors into a building, these different sensors will be communicating using different communication protocols,
Yes,
right?
that's correct.
So kind of like different languages for different
Mm.
sensors.
Yep.
How then would you be able to collect information and connect these different sensors speaking in different communication protocols to your building and to be able to feed that data into the data lake? Right? Maybe
Thank
you,
you, Micah.
yeah.
Now, in fact, I've been receiving this various inquiries from a lot of my customers. Now, you can look at there are many subsystems within the buildings. You have the lift, you have HVAC systems, you have escalators, you have even the security, cut access, and all this. Not, yeah, but in fact, traditionally, all this has been managed by the BMS, where a lot of controls are being wired, communications are being wired. Communications protocols known in the markets is like OPC, BATnets, Longworks, and all this. Not now with the introductions of IoT devices, we are seeing that now there are a lot more mesh networks that can be set up, like using Bluetooth mesh networks, even the multi sensors product that you shared earlier, Michael. These are using Bluetooth sensors, where a mesh of sensors within the network can actually communicate to the gateway easily. using going through Bluetooth, and these gateways can easily pass information to the cloud itself. So we are seeing that the two classes of sensors, where the traditional being managed by BMS and the wireless aspects of the sensors are now is a new norms, yeah, that is being retrofit easily into the buildings. So yeah, that's the
Yeah, and as we deploy more sensors, regardless of what communication protocol they are communicating in, as I mentioned just now in my presentation, they become a loophole for cyber attacks, right? So maybe Joseph, you can maybe explain or elaborate a little bit on how, as we deploy these connected devices and solutions, how can we ensure that we protect our building and also protect the back end um, to prevent this kind of cyber attacks? I remember a story whereby a building was hacked into via a temperature sensor within a fish tank or something like that, right? Yeah, so maybe you can
yes,
elaborate
yes,
on
yes.
cyber security.
All right. I may not be a cybersecurity expert, but in general, what we are seeing here is that a lot of solutions are now moving towards the cloud. Yeah, and where we should know that traditionally building management systems, is like a local systems, and it's not accessible through the internet. And more customers are more welcoming these cloud solutions. And the key aspect is that the customer also expects that not just monitoring, they also want to have some form of control. Yeah, and for that aspects, right, we are seeing there are certain hybrids of solutions whereby the monitoring, for monitoring of energy, monitoring of occupancies, informations as such, will still very much that can be shared through the cloud. But in terms of controls of your HVAC systems, yeah, you cannot allow someone to hack into your cloud and then turn off the aircon or switch off all the power supplies, and that will have a lot of security breaches. So no one in our aspects of technologies will say that they are not hackable. Yeah, everything has its loophole. So we are seeing that this kind of hybrid systems where control has to be very much still a local base. Yeah. Thank you very much, Michael.
Okay, okay. And cameras also can be hacked, right, Adrian? Right. So
Of
I think
course.
there are some people who opt for much cheaper alternatives for CCTV cameras,
Mm-hmm.
but then they also open themselves up for hacking.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit more about what makes Bosch cameras more security, with more cyber security proof.
Right, Michael, that's a big challenge because I have probably 3 minutes to talk about a topic that probably will take me 3 weeks to cover. But in essence, is this, right? Cybersecurity at the end of the day, one of the biggest problems with, I'll just quote you an example. So one of the biggest problems is a camera is usually an IoT device in general. Yeah, they're usually installed in locations that is actually far away from the command center. Yeah. So one of the first things that you need to be concerned about is the camera that's being connected to your management system at a place that you don't see really a is it really the camera that it claims to be? So it's a problem of identification, right? So in Bosch cameras, we actually do have this capability uh, for it to be accepting what we call PKI, yeah, accepting itself into a public key infrastructure, whereby there's a mechanism of having a authorized certificate being loaded onto the camera. So this certificate functions, it serves two purposes. One of it is to authenticate itself. Yeah, so you think of it as a passport or a driver's license, right? So long as you hold the certificate, then you are proving who you claim to be. So that's one of the capabilities of the Bosch cameras, for example. That is an added layer, yeah, to prevent, your risk or mitigate your risk towards this type of cyber attacks. There are many other examples I could wish I had the time to go through, but this just goes on to show you how we are thinking ahead, yeah, and how we are actually putting cybersecurity at the forefront of the things as we design
and
systems like these.
And I think not too long ago we won quite a significant project in Thailand in one of the hospitals, very much because we were able to meet the strict cybersecurity requirements of that building. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We still do have a little bit of time. I'm being told by the organizers that we can
Good.
extend a little bit more. So let's fully utilize our time here on Facebook. It's not every day that we go live on Facebook, right?
Cool.
Yep.
So let's have a longer chat. And I think I want to pass this time over to Joseph to explain a little bit more about your smart lift solution, right? This is a solution, just to let every one of you know, it's a solution that we have actually deployed in Singapore. And maybe, Joseph, you can talk about what we have done in Singapore for smart elevators.
Thank you very much. Just to maybe give a recap of what Michael have shared earlier. So what this smart lift solution is all about. Essentially, what a lot of building owners are actually facing right now is that a lot of monitoring is very much restricted within in the fire command center, or typically looking into the supervisory panels. And a lot of owners would like to see a lot more data beyond what is being provided right now in the market. So what Bosch does is that we're actually putting sensors. Essentially, it's like a Fitbits, but we put it on top of the car top itself. Yeah, and we use these informations to know the vibration profiles, to know the levering profiles and the conditions of the lift, and henceforth, the next time when the maintenance guys is doing a performs the regular maintenance for the lift, prior to arriving on site, they could actually use a mobile phone. They will know what are the problems and what the tools I'm going to bring, what parts I'm going to bring, because all these are being advised by the systems. On top of that, I can actually plan out to know that, hey, if I'm going to here, I'm going to spend average of say 45 minutes instead of regular 2 hours. So having all this advisory through the systems using data driven kind of maintenance allows the maintenance crew to focus on exactly where is the problem of the lift, and then you do not really have to go through a series of checks, which is time consuming right now for the lift industry. So we see a lot of attractions in the market, especially where big landlords, where they have different brands of OEMs, they really want to use this to track the performance of their OEMs as well. Yeah, Michael, back to you.
Yeah. Okay. There was also a question about intercommunication between systems
Mm-hmm.
and standards, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would anybody be able to take this question?
So
Maybe, yeah.
I think this is an interesting one. The thing with smart building is that there is no standard board defining what exactly a smart building is and what
Mm,
protocols are to be adhered to. I think that is a key challenge. But increasingly, what we see is this, right? Ultimately, all the solutions that you have just heard pertaining to smart building, it is IP based, and it communicates via a set of established, I can call it IT protocols, if you will. So the key thing to look for is this, yeah. It's not really what the underlying protocol is. Yeah, it may be BACnet that controls your BMS systems. It might be OPC that controls something else. But ultimately, all the system needs to be abstracted. Yeah. So which means to say, on top of the system, you put a layer on top of it, and this layer is supposed to help you do the protocol conversion between what is the legacy protocol of the system itself, yeah, into something that is open in nature. And I think this is in the standard, if I can call it a standard in the industry, it is quite well defined. So the usual way to do this is via RESTful APIs. And if you are looking for real-time information to be ingested or to be delivered out, then you're looking at an open standard like MQTT. So both of these are quite well known and well established. So I think so in short, steering towards a standards board might not lead us anywhere, but taking the conscious effort to think about, how can we add on these abstraction layers, to help legacy systems communicate openly to other platforms, using well-established standards in the IT space, that is where it's going to be.
Okay, good. And I think that brings us to the end of our session. I think it's been fun. I certainly did enjoy myself over the last 1 hour being with you here on the, Facebook Live. Once again, my name is Michael Goh, Goh. With me is Joseph Chu and
Hello. Yeah.
Adrian Tan. You can find us on LinkedIn. And if you have any other questions, do feel free to reach out to us on LinkedIn. If you would like to find out more about some of the solutions that we had talked about today, you can always reach out to the Bosch office in Bangkok. And we are also partnering with True in some of these employment. So if you are a partner of True, you can also reach out to True, and through them, they can contact us, and we can address your inquiry together. So between Bosch and True, we are here to support your connected building dreams, your smart city ambitions, and we want to walk this journey with you to better understand your use cases, your problem statements, and let's explore this exciting world of IoT together. So with that, I thank you very much for your time and for being here with us. And a very good evening to you. Kokumaka.
See you.
Bye.